We're at the bus station in Rio de Janeiro. And today is the day a new route is being inaugurated. From Rio to the Peruvian capital Lima, 6,300 kilometers away. Oscar Vázquez Solís organized the maiden voyage of the Transoceânica for the Peruvian bus company Ormeño. The senior driver is Daniel Mancia. They're discussing a brief detour.
And when do you think we'll get to Sao Paulo?
Depends on when we leave.
Well, we said 9, but we could leave earlier. We don't have any passengers. We could leave now. That'd give us an extra half an hour.
You want to swing by Copacabana first?
Yeah, sure. That'll take about half an hour.
I hope only half an hour.
Or an hour. It's okay if we get to Sao Paulo a little late. It is the maiden voyage. People will wait.
Sure. They know we're coming from Rio.
Okay, let's go.
The bus won't be carrying any passengers for several hundred kilometers. The first will get on in Sao Paulo. It took until the last minute to get clearance to launch the route, so they could not sell any tickets from Rio.
Okay, we're off. Close the doors.
Ready for takeoff. Copacabana, here we come.
The Transoceânica bus route runs 6,300 kilometers across South America. It begins on the Atlantic coast and passes through the Amazon rainforests and the Andes Mountains, ending finally at the Pacific. The overland journey has raised high hopes.
The Transoceânica will make South America seem smaller.
The natural scenery is magnificent, but it's also under threat.
Nothing will be growing here even a century from now.
People here are frightened, but it's the others who should be afraid.
No bus trip is like another.
You know when you leave, but not when you'll arrive.
The trip begins in the glamorous and cosmopolitan city of Rio de Janeiro. It's home to iconic landmarks such as the statue of Christ the Redeemer and the Sugarloaf Mountain, as well as world-famous beaches. Every day, 1,600 buses depart from the Novo Rio bus station on roads leading inland. They now include one from Peru.
How many kilometers have you driven all told?
20,000 a month for 34 years, so more than 8 million kilometers.
Unbelievable.
Well, 34 years driving a bus.
We're almost at the beach. We're going to see all those beautiful girls from Ipanema, like in the song.
From the bus station, you pass through downtown and then a tunnel to get to Copacabana.
It's just 50 meters to Copacabana Beach.
And here we are.
Coaches are not allowed to stop at the beach. Still, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This calls for a few photos. This is Daniel Mancia's first time in Rio, and he was only here for one night.
Fantastic. Look, there's the sugar loaf.
Among the sunbathers, there's one very happy Peruvian bus driver.
This is the highlight of my career, being here in Rio on the Copacabana.
They eventually set off for Lima, 1 hour behind schedule.
I'm going to retire after this trip.
But we still need you, Daniel.
Well, what new routes are left? It's time to sit in the park and tell my grandchildren all about it.
The Ormeño Bus Company is based in Peru, but operates long-distance lines all over South America, to Colombia, Venezuela, Chile, Argentina, Bolivia, and now Brazil as well, the Lima-Rio route. Oscar Vasquez Solis is the firm's representative in Brazil. He fought for years to set up this line, but it was hard work navigating the Brazilian bureaucracy. All the red tape is the reason there are no passengers for the first 600 kilometers of this first trip.
Sometimes I have to pinch myself to make sure I'm not dreaming. We talked about this for 25 years. When are we going to launch a line to Brazil? One day we're going to drive to Rio. Wouldn't it be great if we had a route to Rio? When you devote all your energy and enthusiasm to your dreams, they can come true. The company always backed me on this. Without its support, such a complex project would never have gotten off the ground. I think the Transoceânica will make South America feel smaller. Now we can drive all the way from the Atlantic to the Pacific. This is really important for commerce and for tourism.
Progress is slow along the winding coastal road, and now they are 3 hours behind schedule. But the trip is worth it. The Costa Verde between Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo is a particularly beautiful stretch of coast. The mountains reach right down to the water. The area attracts visitors from both the big cities, each about 4 hours' drive away. There are pretty old colonial towns such as Paraty. The region was first settled by Portuguese over 500 years ago, something reflected in the architecture and the local population's attitude towards life. Daniel Mancia can only steal quick glimpses of the scenery while driving by. There's no time to sightsee. He earns the equivalent of between 500 and 700 euros a month, depending on how many round trips he makes. On longer routes, he has a co-driver.
I have had some bad luck and a few accidents. That can happen in this line of work. Being a bus driver does not always mean outbound journey, return leg, and that's that. Once when it was raining, I slid off the road and into a ditch. I made a mistake. But thank God there were no fatalities. The Interoceanic Highway takes you into a magical world. It makes you dream, and it evokes memories. There is something mystical about it. I don't know why, but for me, there really is something mysterious about it.
The coach has reached its first destination, Sao Paulo. It's one of the biggest cities in the world, with a population of more than 20 million. People come here from all over the continent in search of work and a better life. They can often earn more here than in Peru, Bolivia, or Paraguay. Migrants are the Ormenio bus company's solid customer base. The coaches carry high hopes and bitter disappointment back and forth across the land. Defeat appears to outweigh hope at the moment. Many Peruvians have been returning home after losing their jobs in Brazil due to the economic crisis. The bus ride to Lima costs about 180 euros. A flight would cost a lot more. The bus has made it from Rio to past Sao Paulo on one tank of fuel. Now it's time to fill up again.
We've come from Rio and we're going to Lima. That'll take 5 days. Yes, 5 days on the road. This is the very first trip on a new route. I hope it works out and we get enough passengers.
Este es especial. Es una revisión de rutina.
You have to check the tire pressure regularly. Just having a look is not enough. You have to tap the tires, the outer and the inner ones. If they sound the same, everything's okay. It helps prevent accidents. Tires can catch fire. If the pressure's low and the tire bulges, the tires can rub against each other and start a fire. It's really dangerous. Great, that's enough.
The next morning, the bus is deep in the interior of Brazil, 1,600 kilometers from Rio. It has just passed the Campo Grande, the capital of the state of Mato Grosso do Sul. The bus is only half full. It'll probably take a year until the line is well established. Among the passengers are 2 German tourists and many Peruvians. Hernan Ramirez is an auto mechanic. Things did not go well in Sao Paulo, so he's going home to Lima to start all over again.
I worked in a shopping center, but it didn't pay enough. I have a wife and daughter. Some months I could send them 1,000 sol, others just 600. It just wasn't enough to support my family.
We've been living in Brazil, but things have just kept getting harder. Now we're going to Peru to see if life is better there. The crisis is severe. Almost all Latinos are going home. My mother worked with Peruvians and Bolivians, and they all said it was hopeless and went back home.
Catarina Nonato is traveling with her 2 sisters and their father. John Nonato makes plaster sculptures, but the commissions have dried up. He's Brazilian, but wants to try his luck in Lima.
People tell me it is great there, and that I won't regret it. I'm sure it'll be fine. My wife is from Peru. She was born in Lima and grew up there. That makes things a lot easier.
Not many tourists cross the continent by bus, at least not yet. Fernando and Patrick from Germany are traveling from Sao Paulo to Cusco, the cheap way. A ticket costs 165 euros.
I worked on a building site for 2 months before I came here. I saved up about 3,500 euros. That's a decent amount to get by on here. 3,500 for 3.5 months.
The landscape has changed. Flat terrain and huge fields as far as the eye can see. The main crops in the state of Mato Grosso do Sul are wheat, soya, rice and cotton. We soon reach the Pantanal, one of the world's largest freshwater wetland ecosystems. It's half the size of Sweden. During and after the rainy season, from January to May, most of the floodplain is deep underwater. It's the perfect habitat for countless birds, many species of aquatic plants, and about 35 million crocodiles. The biodiversity in the Pantanal is among the richest in the world. But there's also some commercial activity to be found in the region. The Pantanero is a local breed of horse. Large herds of them roam free here. André von Turoni owns 30 square kilometers of land here and runs a luxury ecotourism lodge. His guests come from all over the world and include film stars and royalty.
The animals in this region were of no economic value to local landowners. But thanks to tourism, they help generate income for us. If a landowner wants to make money with tourism, he has to look after his land and its animals. That's the trick. Instead of telling people what not to do, you explain that if they do this or that, that will bring in money. It's another way to raise their ecological awareness.
Turoni is a pioneer of ecotourism in Brazil. He's the scion of an Austro-Hungarian noble family. His parents came to Brazil in 1948. His farm would not be profitable without the tourists. The money they pay also helps him finance a range of conservation projects. Turoni prepares once captive macaws to return to a life in the wild. They were caught and sold by poachers, then freed by the Nature Conservancy and brought back to the Pantanal.
They have to learn how to feed themselves. We lose 15% on average. They are eaten by caimans or small foxes. And 10 to 15% stay here with us because they get so used to life here. A few of them sing football songs, and some know how to swear. But most leave us. We have released 24 blue and yellow macaws so far. They are very valuable birds. They fetch 20,000 euros on the European market, each. This is Blue. Other pairs come and visit him and bring their young. I hope and pray that one of them is a female. Then, with a bit of luck, I may become a grandfather.
The Pantanal is a vast breeding ground that supplies animals to the entire continent. But humans are encroaching on this natural paradise. Cattle pastures and soya fields are getting ever closer.
We are in a depression, a basin. So whatever goes on around us flows down into the Pantanal. Agribusiness has grown enormously in the last 10 to 15 years. Mainly soybeans, but also sugarcane to make ethanol. All these plantations, the entire system, use a lot of fertilizer and lots of chemicals. Sooner or later, chances are it will all end up here.
The Transoceânica route skirts the wetlands, passing through endless fields of soya. This all used to be tropical rainforest. The name of the state here is Mato Grasso. That means thick forest in Portuguese. But there's truly not much left. Mato Grosso is the state with the greatest agricultural production in Brazil. The plantations are vast, and increasingly more land is being farmed. Soybeans and soya meal are exported worldwide. 6 million metric tons were sold to Germany in 2015 for animal feed. An hour-long break for lunch in the midst of this monotonous landscape.
It feels good to get out and stretch the legs and get some fresh air. And it's warmer out here than in the bus, which is nice. The toilets aren't as well maintained as they are back home in Germany. It looks like they might be cleaned once a week. It smells of urine and feces. I don't want to do the typical tourist thing. Take a few photos of the major sites, then rush back to the hotel and post them online or go on the internet. I'd rather talk to people, find out what they think and how they feel. I think they enjoy discovering things about me as much as I enjoy learning from them.
Fernando speaks Spanish and his friend Patrick speaks Portuguese, so they can communicate across most of the continent. They get on well with the three Nonato sisters and share stories of their travels. The bus has traveled 1,800 kilometers from Rio so far. Just 4,500 to go. Oscar Vasquez is pleased. Things are going smoothly. One of the passengers is a Peruvian friend who lives in Sao Paulo. Jacinto Cajuana is a retired police officer and has worked for 7 years in Brazil as a night watchman. He's going home to visit his family in Lima.
Jacinto, here's your guitar.
sabes querer, si sabes amar, vamos a la playa, vamos a pescar. Si sabes querer, si sabes amar, vamos a la playa, vamos a pescar. Si sabes querer, si sabes amar, vamos a la playa, vamos a pescar. Si sabes querer, si sabes amar, vamos a la playa, vamos a pescar. Si sabes querer, si sabes amar, vamos a la playa. Vamos a
Buena, Jacinto. Toda tu gente está hablando. Y acá nos vamos hasta Lima cantando, Jacinto. Opa. Vamos.
Das wird ja nicht so witzig.
Letra. Dale, golpe.
La Munde copiar.
Vamos a divertirnos, parechita.
Peruanita bonita, perrotito de azúcar.
Peruanita bonita, grano fino de sal.
Dame un beso, negrita.
Una vez que empiece el viaje.
At the start of a trip, people sit quietly in their seats and read magazines.
Leo tu revista, el día de tu revista, las primeras horas.
The next day, they talk to the person who is sitting next to them. The day after that, they talk to the people in the next row. And then everybody else on the bus. They get to know each other, some make friends, swap phone numbers. They ask, where are you going? Give me a call. Some even fall in love. And at the end of the trip, they get off the bus holding hands or embracing. Anything can happen when you spend 5 days together on a bus. When you spend 5 days taking time to interact with each other.
Estar interrelacionados 5 días.
Ay, si tú me das, muere contigo Cholita, mi soledad. Sí, toma, toma. Negra, negrita linda, te me quieres amar, amar. Muere contigo Cholita, mi soledad.
Mato Grosso is Brazil's breadbasket and also its Wild West. It's cattle ranching and cowboy country. Rodeo has become a very popular pastime here. Local events are held in many villages along the route of the Transoceânica. On the weekend, people come together to grill and ride bulls. They bet on who will last the longest before falling off. Edna Antonovsky is a rodeo star. She's checking out the venue before the event begins. She's the most successful female rider in Brazil. She's taking part in this small-scale event just for fun. Cowboys still aren't used to seeing cowgirls on a bucking bronco.
Nothing much has changed since I started. Okay, now I've made a name for myself. I'm better known. People respect me because they know me, or because they've seen me on TV or on the internet. But the preconceptions remain the same. You have to prove yourself over and over again, not just as a rodeo writer, but also as a woman. People get it wrong. They either see you as just a competitor, stripped of any femininity, or they see you just as a woman in the midst of men.
Women ride bucking broncos while men ride bucking bulls, huge creatures that weigh up to 600 kilograms. Rodeos draw enormous crowds in Brazil, rivaling soccer as a spectator sport. Rodeo is even bigger business than carnival. Many boys first mount a bull in their early teens. Neither accidents nor injuries deter them.
You can always have an accident. They usually happen when you least expect it. So I don't worry too much. What happens, happens.
To improve their grip, the riders smear glue or wax on their gloves. Heat dries the glue. But the gloves must not stick to the reins when you let go. The rodeo will begin at sundown, an hour from now. It's also important to limber up. Suppleness is crucial when you fall to prevent injuries. It looks like everybody in town is here. They've all come to see Edna Antonovsky in the saddle. The mood is good, except for the horses. They don't like the bright lights, the noise, or the confined spaces.
You have to know exactly how to fall. Under no circumstances should you fall under the horse. You only have to stay on the horse for 8 seconds, and not a second longer. Then you release your grip and fall to the side. If you fall backwards, your neck is exposed, or you fall on your head. And if you twist too much, you end up under the horse. The best thing is to drop off to one side.
What the women are doing isn't easy. Not everyone could do that. They're more courageous than the men. Taking on an animal like that is tough. They're more manly than the men.
After the horse riding comes the bull riding, but first the riders gather together to pray.
Perdoar as ofensas, assim como nós perdoamos aqueles que têm pedido. E não deixeis perdição, mas livrai do mal. Amém. Ave Maria, cheia de graça, Senhor é convosco. Bendito sois vós entre as mulheres. Bendito é o fruto de vosso ventre, Jesus. Santa Maria, que Deus faça companhia. viu?
Today, there's no money to be made. But at major rodeos, the winners might take home over 10,000 euros. The prize money for women is lower, but a 4,000 euro purse is not uncommon.
I'm 16 and started riding at 14. I'm following in my father's footsteps. He's retired. He was injured, so I'm taking his place. And I'm pursuing the same course. He was one of the best. I want to reach the top too, so I can give my father a better life and help my family.
As the show winds down late in the evening, Edna Antonovsky and a young colleague talk shop.
I'm feeling good today. It's my dream to win the top prize at some point. And I'm gaining experience every day. I want this. Do you have the mindset to become a great competitor with money and prizes? I don't think so. Not quite yet. It's odd. I see you've achieved it and have got used to winning. I think that'll be hard for me. But we learn what life teaches us. Women's rodeo is very tough. You might think the prejudices are decreasing, but they're not. We have to prove again every day that we're up to the task and look good at the same time. Skill isn't enough. You have to look beautiful as well, so people watch and realize that women can do it too. I want to pass on everything I know to younger women, so it doesn't end with me.
The bus has long since passed the village where the rodeo is taking place. This is the last break before the long stretch through the night. The drivers are stretching their legs. They've covered 2,000 kilometers. But the stop lasts longer than expected. One of the coach's windows is shattered.
It was the door.
The drivers first try to cover the hole with a poster advertising the new bus route.
Well, this is not going to work. It's not going to stay up there.
Alan, we've got a problem. The back door smashed the window just behind it when it opened.
Oscar Vasquez sends a photo to his office in Sao Paulo and orders a new window pane in Peru.
En el balde María había un cuchillo.
It takes an hour to patch up the window. The bus is now 5 hours behind schedule. There are still 4,300 kilometers to go, and jungles, mountains, and deserts to cross. Delays are to be expected on such a long route.
Well, that's the highway for you. You can never be sure what's going to happen. Like we say, you know when you leave, but you never know when you're going to get there. Those are the risks in our profession.